Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Tank Davis and Floyd Mayweather. The saga continues. Just when I was feeling optimistic about Floyd and Tank and them being able to kind of get beyond what little turbulence in the relationship had bubbled up, it looks like they've taken another major setback. Leonard Ellaby last night during the press conference between Tank and Rolly was talking about Tank's next fight and being such a draw and selling out the crowd and speaking as if they had already sorted out the differences and Tank was going to be going forward with TMT. But then Tank goes and he puts this post out there on Twitter about Floyd Mayweather and saying, LOL, then he had the N-word in there. Had a press conference today and fight on the same day. No matter how much money you have, you can still be jealous of an MF. And he says, boy. Now, this is the thing, right? Tank, does Tank have a legit argument here? It's not just with what Floyd is doing right now. And I get it. Floyd has his exhibitions. He's got to keep making money. He has a passion for what he's doing, right? But you have a stable of fighters. Floyd is always saying, it's not about me anymore. It's about these up-and-coming fighters. Tank is the next big pay-per-view star. Tank's going to take boxing beyond where I took it. But, people want to believe that. And I'm just a fan. I'm on the outside looking in. But if I was Tank Davis, I would be pissed if my promoter, Floyd Mayweather, had a press conference on the same day I have my press conference and has his fight scheduled on the same day I have my fight scheduled. Now, if we peel the layers back, maybe there's some way where they both benefit from having the press conference on the same day and benefit from having the fight on the same day. They're not on the same card, two different locations, and they're both pay-per-view events. So how is there a benefit to Tank to compete with Floyd the same day pay-per-view? How does Tank benefit? And that's where I need you guys to help me out, because I don't see it. Tank should be pissed. And that's why Tank has to make a tough decision going forward, because that, to me, is foul. And Floyd in his position, let me tell you, it's all about long-term planning. When you have a schedule of any sort, and I know about schedules, right? You got long-term, like a long-range plan. That's like a yearly thing that you plan, and that's pretty soft. But that's where you kind of just start putting things out there, and so you can see this is what we're looking at. It's like a projection. Then you have an annual plan where you're refining that long-range plan. You see, so as every year get within a year, you start to firm up those soft kind of points on your schedule. Then you have like a quarterly plan. So we took our annual now we're breaking it down by quarters. And as we get into the upcoming quarter, we start to refine and firm it up. Then you have your monthly plan where you refine the quarterly plan. Then you have your weekly plan, and then you have your daily, okay? With Floyd, you're telling me that this guy couldn't have had, as a promoter, doesn't have like a long-range schedule where he has his fighters and where he wants them to fight and what the plan is? Doesn't have an annual plan where he's looking at, okay, this is what we're trying to do, especially with a guy like Tank Davis trying to fight you 4 times a year. These are the dates. And then you can't come now and look at my exhibitions. Where am I going to place them so I don't conflict with my pay-per-view stars? You see, maybe you have a guy who's fighting still in Las Vegas, making $20,000 a show. It doesn't matter if you fight on pay-per-view. that doesn't affect him. But when you're in direct competition with a guy in your stable who's one of the top stars in the sport, that's problematic. And Tank should be upset. Now, I will say this. Tank has I'll tell you this, right? I've been in positions where life was pretty good in my previous occupation. But then I had somebody who was helping me or to try to guide me, put me in certain, I did the work now, but they would put me in certain positions where all of my effort, my ambition, and my vision was on full display, and I was able to get recognized on a different level. But I had people who was like, no, you're going to go ahead, we need you to do this. It's kind of like what Floyd did. But I did have those same people who, there were times where I felt like, this mug is trying to take the credit for what I'm doing. And that's BS. Or this person, I feel, is trying to hurt me in a sense. And you have every right to feel that. But no matter how much I complained, I griped, how much hell I raised, venting to other people about these one or two people, I always would come back to them. But at the end of the day, this person helped me. And no matter how I feel, how frustrated I became about things, I can only go so far as my frustrations and how I spoke negatively about that person. Because I wouldn't be where I wouldn't have got to where I arrived had it not been for certain people. And that's where I would digress. But but it is frustrating. So I look at Tank, I understand. But I just think being so flagrant and reckless with his words for someone who helped him. Now, I'm not saying that, and we got to be careful. Floyd Mayweather is not Don King. Don King was saying, yeah, I robbed people. I treated them so bad. I took them out the ghetto and made them millionaires. Don King has a point. But Don King was horrible. But he did put money in these people's pocket who had nothing. But they deserve so much more because it's the fighter and they're doing the fighting. But Don King made a point. Now, I'm not saying Floyd is Don King. But what I am saying is Floyd helped him. He helped him a lot. You know, he came out, he bought him a car. But those are the things that, you dangle that carrot in front of these young guys. It's manipulation. But I do think Floyd has genuine love for him. But this is the problem. Much bigger than Floyd fighting on the same day. Tank doesn't believe Floyd wholeheartedly supports him. And this is what Floyd is in a very awkward position because there are a lot of boxers out there, young boxers and guys who've been around for a while, who have come up with Floyd. So let's look at Devin Haney. Tank Davis was a little sour that Floyd was working with Devin Haney. Now, if Floyd is training Devin Haney, and this was a few years ago, right? But from time to time, he still would get in there and help him a little bit. Because Devin Haney came up in that gym, man, as a little kid. So Floyd is just supposed to not just sever ties with him? Someone who's like a nephew to him? It just doesn't work like that. But the problem is they're fighting. They're in competition with each other. They could potentially have a fight. So if Tank is your top dog, why are you training someone who could come in, potentially clip him? Adrian Broner, right? He talks, sometimes I don't know what the hell he's saying because of the amount of slang he speaks with. He said during, he was getting ready to fight. Who was he getting ready to fight? The Pacquiao. And Bernstein was asking him something, and Broner didn't want to talk to him. He called him, he said all kind of real ridiculous stuff. But anyway, he told Bernstein he didn't want to talk to him. And Bernstein went to his trainer, and Broner said, the trainer's not going to speak to you either. Everything is gang. Now, I don't really know what that shit means, but he said, no, it's gang gang. And I guess what that means is, we're all on the same accord. If I don't talk to you, no one on the team will speak to you. And Kevin Cunningham looked frustrated. Now, he's a retired police officer and everything. You're not going to let somebody just tell him what to do, but at the end of the day, Broner is his boss. So, getting back to the gang gang thing, and if I don't deal with you, no one else is going to deal with you. I think that's kind of how Tank feels like. If I'm not going to mess with Devin Haney, you shouldn't either as my promoter. But it's hard for Floyd Mayweather to just not associate or help a child or a boxer that he's been helping since he's been a child, man. You don't do that. But, it's business, and I get it, but that's what I think Tank has to kind of understand. But Floyd, at the same time, man, this guy is on your team, and you got to understand the way he feels, and they need to have a conversation to sort that out. But also with Tank, and this is where, you hope that they can sort things out, but he's frustrated. Look at what Devin Haney has done. Fought Linares, fought Jojo Diaz. Devin Haney is now fighting for the undisputed. Tank's not anywhere near that. Okay? Tank is still fighting. He's not fighting top names. I'll put it to you like that. When I say top names, I'm talking about the Teofimos, the Ryan Garcias. I'm talking about a Josh Taylor. Yeah, he got busy with El Azteca, Mario Barrios. He fought Leo Santa Cruz. But those guys have been champions coming up from lighter weights. Barrios was a little bit bigger. He was melting himself down, weight drained. But Tank wants to fight a Devin Haney, a Ryan Garcia, a Lomachenko. He wants to fight, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez. He wants to get in there with Cambosis. But maybe we'll get that later this year. But he's frustrated because look at what Ryan Garcia is doing. He's out here in San Antonio about to fight, the African fighter. But then probably going to go on to fight Devin Haney. Probably going to go on to fight Cambosis when they sort things out. He may get the Lomachenko fight. Who knows what's next for him? But Ryan Garcia is ready to fight Tank. He's not afraid. He's ready to fight him. But, Mayweather is keeping he's doing a smart thing. He wants to build him up and keep having him knock people out, to keep that buzz around his name, to keep him as a pay-per-view star and get him filthy rich. But I think Tank really does want to go and fight these big names. And Mayweather is not worried about rushing him. And I get it, but I think Tank's getting frustrated. And then with everything else he has going on, and he is probably looking at Mayweather competing with him. Look, we're not behind those closed doors, or we're not with them. We're not a fly on the wall. We don't know what kind of confrontations they've had and different things. We don't know what is really bothering Gervontae. But I do know when you're sitting back and watching, and that's one thing that I think young people have to learn. Quit worrying about what someone else has going on. Worry about what you have control over. Don't worry about what Ryan Garcia is doing. Don't worry about what Cambosis is doing, Haney's doing, Teofimo is doing, Lomachenko's doing, Josh Taylor's doing, Regis Prograis is doing. Don't worry about that. But if you want those fights, he has to pressure Mayweather. But Mayweather, they're not going to put Gervontae in a high-risk situation. They're not going to do it. I'm telling you, they're going to run his record up 30, 35-0, 30 knockouts, 32 knockouts. And then maybe we'll see something. But by then, Tank will be a gazillionaire. And they can do that. But we're going to see what happens here pretty soon, because Tank seems frustrated. And he has every right to be frustrated with Mayweather fighting on the same day. But the frustration, again, it doesn't derive from just this. It's just over a period of time since he signed with Mayweather. Several years ago, he's just not getting those big fights that he wants. He's made history. Mayweather's done amazing things for him. But I think Mayweather's done what he wanted to do for him, not what Gervontae Davis wanted Mayweather to do for him. I think Gervontae Davis wanted more than just the money. And we're going to see what his next move is, because you don't want to lock yourself into another situation where you're not getting what you want. Now you're unhappy another 6-7 years. You know, Ryan Garcia had to get out there and blast De La Hoya. De La Hoya came and woke up, and they gave them whatever they wanted. It made them happy with the money, because De La Hoya was just robbing them. But now Garcia seems happy. I think you're getting paid good money. Everyone seems to be happy with the situation. Tank is getting paid good money, but he seems to want more money. He wants bigger fights, and he wants to feel like Mayweather's not competing with him. And I hope they can work through the issues, because it's just too amazing. Tank's an amazing fighter. He deserves huge fights. He deserves to go out there and cement his legacy, and he doesn't need to feel like he's being obstructed by his promoter. And that's fair. And that's just poor scheduling on the Mayweather's part, PBC's part, and everybody else behind that. It's just poor scheduling, poor planning, and it's a poor decision making. You could have done it a few months before, a few months after, but you just don't go head to head with your fighter. That's madness, man. But anyway, man, that's my thing. We'll see what happens, because really after Tank fights Rolly, if he beats him, Tank can't fight Lomachenko, Tank can't fight Devin Haney, Tank can't fight Kambosos, Ryan Garcia, Regis Prograis, the Josh Taylor, he's got some issues because people felt he lost his fight. Keith Thurman is out there. So we're going to see what happens next. But don't expect, if Tank stays with Floyd, don't expect Floyd to throw him in there with someone who can clip him. Like Regis Prograis is a huge problem for all of them. Prograis can bang. So we'll see what they do, but don't expect that. And I think Tank has his hands full with Rolly, to be honest with you. So we'll see what happens in the coming months. We're probably a little more than a month out for that fight. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's being said, that's the latest on Tank and Floyd and the drama. Just more to come on that, man. But anyway, as always, appreciate your support. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. We're trying to put out 40 of these a week. There's so much to cover, so much to talk about. I try to be fair, because that's what I think these fighters deserve. And if you're taking time to watch my video, you deserve that too. Okay? And as always, shout out to all the veterans, and I'm in the breeze.